Niglin, Norkul, Nurglich, Onogal, Nurgle. He is the chaos god of plague and pestilence, of rot and decay, of death and despair. Why anyone would worship such a deity is beyond the comprehension of most Southerners, even those who might flirt with the powers of chaos. Khorne might give the strength needed to survive the endless trials of the old world, while Tzeentch may change situations for the better. Slaanesh brings unparalleled pleasure to those who merely submit to their whims. Nurgle, in contrast, brings nothing but disease and stagnation. What madman would worship such a grotesque creature? Yet far to the north, at the crown of the world, whole tribes of men kneel at Nurgle's altar, loudly offering praise to the Lord of Pestilence. Whether from desperation or genuine adoration, these madmen will erect vile monoliths to their dark god, drawing upon his pestilent might to carve out their place in an unforgiving world. This has proven to be an effective strategy, and tribes dedicated to Nurgle are feared even among their Chaos Warrior brethren. To his northern worshippers, Nurgle appears as a great, rotting crow. The ravages of plague are evident upon the bird's body. The beast is bone-thin and flightless, as its exposed skeleton is unfit for aerial movement. Pale white maggots worm their way through whatever flesh remains, usually on the creature's belly. As such, the Northmen see crows as a sign of Nurgle's presence. Seeing the carrion bird indicates a slow, lingering end filled with suffering and misfortune. Depending on the omens, this fate may await the Northerners, or, more likely, their enemies. Tribes dedicated to Nurgle tend to subscribe to one of two philosophies. In contrast to their jolly deity, the first group is grim and cheerless. These followers of the Plague Lord believe that suffering and misery is the natural state of life, seeing existence as something to be endured, not exalted in. Among these tribes, Niglin is worshipped out of respect, not love, as they see him as the only honest god in all the heavens. He acknowledges that life is without meaning or purpose, that everything built by a man will eventually crumble and rot, and the Northmen hold such frankness in high regard. They believe that the only way to understand themselves, the world, and their god is to embrace this harsh reality, falling into the greatest depths of despair in search for truth. The other variety of Nurgle tribes could not be more different. Unlike their dour counterparts, these tribes follow in Nurgle's footsteps, embracing a jolly, carefree approach to life. They take pleasure in the plague and pestilence they unleash, and seem to genuinely love Grandfather Nurgle. Just like their fellows, these tribesmen accept the futility of life and the inevitability of death, but until then, they delight in the joys of decay as it rolls across the mortal realm. No matter their approach to life, northern tribes dedicated to Norkul view his plagues as divine blessings. Contracting one is seen as a sign of the Fly Lord's favor, and particularly eager worshippers will pray for the day they catch one of his concoctions. Unlike the weak Southerners who wilt and die upon receiving Nurgle's gifts, these Northmen will often survive, and even find themselves strengthened by the experience. Such individuals are granted immunity to discomfort or death stemming from plague, and the results are disturbing to say the least. The diseases, unconfined by the release of death of their host, continue to run unabated, warping the infected individual's form. Bodies bloat with corpse gas, flesh rots away without the slightest discomfort, and flies swarm in great clouds around these blessed individuals. Nurgle's followers are remarkably resistant to physical harm as a result, capable of tanking titanic blows that would fell lesser men. While fighting the followers of Nurgle is a terrifying prospect, being captured by them is even worse. Those who aren't subjected to new, experimental plagues are tortured until their bodies eventually succumb to their wounds. The dour tribes of Nurgle demand their victims suffer in silence, believing the pain they bestow is sacred and should be accepted in accordance with Nurgle's will. When their captive inevitably dies, they are left deep within the earth to fester and rot. The underworld is considered Nurgle's domain, and the Northmen say that Nurgle will feast upon the deceased individual's soul like a maggot upon a corpse, even as real maggots feast upon the actual corpse. Of course, the Northerners are not a monolith. Specific viewpoints in Nurgle vary between Norse, Kurgan, and Hung interpretations, and even within those cultural groups there's no formal dogma. The Norse tend to split Nurgle into several gods, each covering different aspects of death, plague, and misery. The Kurgan, in turn, see him in the natural world, as pools of sucking mud or a horse's rotting corpse. However they view Nurgle, though, the results are still the same. A tribe of disgusting, bloated warriors, sustained more by the spirit of Neglin than any natural force. With that, we've come to the end of our cursory overview of the tribes of Nurgle. I know, there wasn't a total war portion of this episode either, but I just didn't really find a worthwhile connection to the game to justify an entire segment on it. Sure, Festus and Tamurkhan are both deeply connected to Nurgle, but this was more about how the Norse, Hung, and Kurgan view Nurgle from a cultural standpoint. This doesn't really translate well into a total war segment, as you might have guessed. Still, I hope you liked the video, as I think understanding the philosophy behind the Warriors of Chaos makes them more enjoyable to play. If you had a good time, might I recommend you leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more stuff like it. I've also got a Discord, which I've linked down below. The people who've already joined are pretty rad, and it's a much more reliable way to see my videos than relying upon the YouTube algorithm, which is a far more fickle being than even the Prince of Pleasure. That's all for today though, so until next time, this has been Sigmar's Chosen, signing off for now.